Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner Football Fans podcast. Today, from the Prairie Report and the Chase for 8 podcast, we have Matthew Peery on with us. We go over all the many reasons Kyler Murray should not go to the Major League Baseball draft and the few reasons why he should. And also, what kind of offense are we going to get to see him run this September? Sooner football fans is not associated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boomer. Hey, Sooner fans. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And on the podcast today, we have from the Prairie Report and the Chase for 8 podcast, and he's also a fellow member of the Reload Status Sooner edition with us, Matthew Peery from Louisiana. Boomer, Matthew.
Hey, Boomer, guys. How's it going?
Fantastic. So, talk to you before we came on. You're dealing with a bunch of thunderstorms down there in the beautiful state of Louisiana.
Absolutely. It's a little bit moist.
Hey, do you ever go gator hunting?
I'll tell you what, I actually have been, but it was completely by accident.
So, does that mean you walked out in your backyard and there was a gator back there and you went, time to gator hunt?
It was when I actually first moved down here whenever I was 15 years old, and a bunch of buddies of mine said, hey, you should come over. We're going to go out on the pond and we're going to go fishing. And I said, all right, let's do that. About 10 minutes in, I hear about 5 separate splashes, and next thing I know, I turn the flashlight in the boat, and there's a little full-foot gator staring at me right in the face, and I about pissed my pants.
Yep.
It was terrible.
Well, I told you I used to go down to Louisiana about once every 2 months for work, and I was down in Donaldsonville, and this old fella I was talking to, because there was a gator crossing the street when I came into town. And
right.
And I was like, does that happen all the time? He goes, oh, yeah. And he goes, you don't have to worry about the gator you see. You got to worry about the gator you don't see. And I was like, well, okay. As long as you can see him, you're okay.
Those gators down in Donaldsonville, you got to be real careful down there, because Donaldsonville's not a very safe place. It's not the gator you got to worry about. It's the gators that's chasing the gators, because chances are those things have got guns, man.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely a different.
A lot of gator gang activity going on in that area, you know.
They have a TV show about them, don't they?
Down there in it's like Plaquemine and police department. I don't know. It's super ghetto down there, man. But I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So, fill us in on the Prairie Report. How did you come up with the idea? How long have you been doing it? And so on.
Oh, man. Well, it was about 2016. I was kind of hitting a point in my life where, I kind of knew that there was a lot of things that I needed to change. I've been working in Dallas and hadn't been having a whole lot of success down that way. And, I've always loved Oklahoma football. I've always kind of been out of my element, though, being from Arkansas and from Louisiana most of my life, most of my childhood, constantly getting berated by SEC fans. And, me being originally from Oklahoma and my father being an Oklahoma fan, I'm a second-generation Oklahoma fan. And, I just kind of immersed myself in the history and the tradition of Oklahoma football. And I've always kind of been intrigued by it. And, I remember any time that I would do really, really good in like a Pee Wee game, or, maybe I'd do something good in baseball in the summer, my dad would always give me these little collectible cards of Sooner football players. And I've got like Brian Bosworth, Teddy Lehman, Roy Williams, all those guys. And just from a young age, like I said, I've really been a big Oklahoma fan. And so I feel like I have a lot of knowledge and points of view of Oklahoma history, and so I feel like I have a unique kind of point of view on Oklahoma football that, I was born early in the 90s, so as much as it pains me, I remember watching John Blake football at Oklahoma, and it didn't start out that well, but, about the time that I was really, getting into school was about the time that, Rob Stoops got there, and I remember him coming in and just the change of the program seemingly overnight. I had this different view, and I wanted to share it with people, kind of give me a little bit of a distraction from what I had going on in my own personal life. And, it just has kind of gone from there. I started out with the Prairie Report, just kind of writing daily articles, and, that's calmed down a lot now that I'm, working and working in the food industry and being at work a lot. But that's just how I came up with the Chase for 8 podcast. It's hard to sit down and write a lot of times, but I can easily call someone up and, talk for 40, 45 minutes about, something that's going on and get it done with and have a new avenue to get my point of view to Oklahoma fans that are interested in hearing it. And, I'm not one of those people that has paid for their following. It's all organic, and I've built it up to 1,200 followers. And we've just kind of been, I like to keep it loose and have fun with everybody. I treat everybody like you're my friend until you give me a reason not to. And, I just kind of, it's a way for me to connect with other people who have similar kind of views, but also just the same love for Oklahoma football in different ways.
Right.
There's so many ways to love Oklahoma football, and I just like, I'm kind of like a sponge. I like to absorb information and absorb other people's points of views and, kind of twist it and see kind of how they look at it compared to how I look at it, and just, kind of shape a new viewpoint on the game and just what Oklahoma football is.
Right. And see, and that's kind of, you're a lot like Rob and I. We had the podcast idea because Rob and I have been friends now for, years. And basically, regardless of what time of the year it is, him and I, our families or whatever, we go to Buffalo Wild Wings on Thursday nights, have for a long time. And what do we talk about? We talk about Sooner football or Sooner sports. And we were watching a game one night, an OU game. I believe it may have been the Big 12 championship game. And we were watching a post game and listening to post game. And Rob looked at me and he goes, Terry, we could do that. And I was like, what? And he go, do like a radio show or a podcast or something. So we started researching it. And our whole concept has been fans like us don't really have an opportunity to get their point of view out there. You know what I mean? There's that's why we named it Sooner Football Fans Podcast, was so we want the Joe fan to come on and talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah, and we're enjoying the heck out of it.
Yeah, and
absolutely
their points of view, we've got, you from Louisiana, we've had guys, from Texas on so far. Rob's got a good friend of his from California, our podcast that we dropped yesterday. And it's just interesting to hear, the stories. Scotty from Los Angeles, he talked about the Sooner Club that meets in Hollywood for OU football games, has 113 beers on tap.
By the way, I told him if it was in Hollywood and Sandra Bullock was going to be there, I'd show up. So
hold on, now give me that address. I got 10 right here.
We were like, we haven't. That would be worth just the trip to go out and watch a game from there. Man. But it's like you said, it's really interesting to hear everybody's concepts and of their view of Oklahoma football and the generations that we're running into. We've talked to guys that, like yourself and the raised in the early 90s, didn't their start of OU football. Then we got guys like us who we remember listening to, not watching OU games, listening to them on the radio.
Yeah, because we couldn't get anything back then. I don't know how old you are, but back when Terry and I were,
I'm 25.
Oh yeah, we were lucky to catch any kind of game. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So and to hear the different perspectives of who's the greatest running back. Well, this generation, it's Peterson.
Adrian Peterson.
Well,
and it's hard to argue that.
It's hard to argue.
I don't care what generation you're from.
But then when you go back from our generation and you say Joe Washington and Billy Sims, it's hard to argue with that because we've had so much history in Sooner football. Is what makes Sooner football great, because you can go back generation after generation, every decade, and find those standout players like what we've had.
I don't think you can pick just one. To be honest with you.
Yeah. So, but it's fun to talk about.
Oh yeah.
But we asked you on the podcast with us because on April 19th, Keith Law from ESPN Major League Draft Insider. That's his official title. I looked it up.
Right.
And on his top 50 draft picks, he slated Kyler Murray at number 36, which everybody knows when that came out, it sent Sooner Nation, the Sooner fans, into a frenzy. Holy crap, you know. And just like what I did, Rod did, and other people did, we went, well, what does 36th draft pick mean? Well, when you go looking into it deeper, last year's 36th pick got a $1.8 million signing bonus. Now, kids who grew up like me and Rob did, you tell me I can go play baseball for $1.8 million, I'm gone.
Yeah, wouldn't want to be you.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that discussion started on Twitter, and then you piped in, and you've got
Absolutely.
an article on the Prairie Report, which is a great article. And you've been in that situation or known people in that situation. So give us the side of why that's too high of a pick, because the guy is just an analyst, you know. So I mean,
Absolutely.
Who knows where he's going to go? But
Absolutely.
School us.
Well, you know, to start out, just you know, and I can level with you on the where you come from thing, because I'm right there with you. You know, I mean, my dad, when we lived in Arkansas, he was supporting 6 people in one house, and you know, we were very lucky that, you know, we didn't have to go without, you know, worrying where our next meal was, but you know, we weren't taking very many luxurious vacations as kids either. You know, we went and saw our relatives in Oklahoma maybe once a year, and you know, twice if they came to Arkansas to see us. But you know, another thing to kind of take into consideration, just first off, just kind of, and you know, this is just what I'm getting off of from the you know, what you said there, but Allen, Texas, you know, and this is someone who's lived in Plano, which is not too far away from Allen. Allen, Texas is not exactly a town that is known to be impoverished by any means. You know, I have no idea about Kyler Murray's background. I don't know the extent of what his, you know, lifestyle was growing up. But, you know, just from the outset, that's the first thing I'm going to say there is, you know, Allen's not exactly a very impoverished city in itself. There's people that live there generally do pretty well for themselves. Right. You know, so I don't think that it's a situation where Kyler is going to be hurting money. The second thing you have to keep in mind is that he is a Division I scholarship athlete, and he's going to graduate with, you know, absolutely no debt at all from going to school. He's received a full ride scholarship from not only Texas A&M, but Oklahoma as well. So, you know, that's another thing to take into consideration. Now, like you said, the 36th overall pick last year received a $1.8 million signing bonus. And this year, that pick is for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the pick value is at $1.967. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to confuse my numbers. $1,967,000.
A whole
lot. That's a fair bit of money.
Right.
Now, Kyler Murray, and a lot of people have said this going back from last year. I believe there was I can't remember who the coach was, but there was a coach who said that if Baker Mayfield was not Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray would be the starting quarterback at Oklahoma. So he's essentially a shoe-in at quarterback right now just based off of his athletic ability alone. There's a reason that Austin Kendall redshirted last year. And really that is to buy him another year for whenever Kyler decides to leave, so that he doesn't lose, you know, a year of eligibility and just go out 1 year after that. There's now a 2-year gap between Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall in as far as eligibility goes. So that was definitely done with a purpose. To keep the, you know, quarterback play as high as what it is, and, you know, obviously the recruiting's been taken off there. But Kyler is the man right now at quarterback. So he has a very, very good situation on the football team and the baseball team. Now, the reason that Kyler shouldn't rush himself into a decision too early to leave for the major leagues is that there's not a general manager worth his salt that is going to spend a pick that high, that costs that much money, on somebody that they aren't 100% for sure will come out. Lincoln Riley and Kyler Murray have talked. They've kind of reached an understanding. The rumor is that if he goes in the second round or maybe the first round, then there's a good possibility that he may consider it. Not that he'll go, but that he'll consider it. So that's still not a 100% clear answer. There's no clarity whether he will or will not go. So the other thing to consider, and, this is just something that I feel like Keith Law, if you look at the history of his Major League Draft projections, is he doesn't consider the high school talent that much in the country. When he makes his, whenever he makes his mock draft, he doesn't include too many high school baseball players on there. However, last year, in the first 3 rounds, 36 of 105 draft picks were from high school. Now, when you expand that further, and, this was something that I was actually looking into just before you guys called, but there are guys who are being drafted from junior colleges. There are guys being drafted from Division III schools. There are guys being drafted from NAIA schools. There's a whole lot of different levels that you're going up against. You count in, there's high school kids, there's junior college kids, there's freshman kids, there's juniors and seniors that are eligible for the draft. You have, of course, like I said, all those other levels of players that are out there that actual Major League scouts will be out and, evaluating. There's a lot of talent out there. Right. Kyler Murray wasn't even in the top 200 of Baseball America's preseason mock draft or top 200 prospects for the Major League at the beginning of the year. And the reason for that is that last year when Kyler Murray was a designated hitter, he hit 122, and that really was just 6 hits all year. He wasn't playing in the field. Obviously, the move to putting him out in the outfield was a wonderful decision. He's got the speed, he's got the arm strength, and clearly he has the bat as he's hit 276 this year. Now, 276, for a lot of people who don't understand how baseball statistics work, it means he gets on base 27.6% of the time he comes to the plate,
right? Which
is still not a very good average. Now, he definitely has some power in his swing. He's hit 6 home runs, but we're talking 276. There's not very many all-stars, Major League Baseball all-stars that hit 276. So it's one of those things you have to take with a grain of salt. I find it very hard to believe that somebody with one quality, and I say quality loosely, season under his belt at a new position, and then you add in the fact that he's also probably going to be the starting quarterback of a college football playoff contender, and that really his first love is football. It seems like a very, very risky pick to spend that high when you could. There's several kids out there. There's several people out there that you could spend that same pick on and get your money's worth for someone who is 100% dedicated to baseball. And if you draft him, you know he is going to be there come spring training.
Right. Now, let's say you're a general manager does contact him. Okay, playing devil's advocate here. General manager does contact him and say, "Hey, we need a commitment from you that we understand that you're a 2-sport athlete, and let's face it, nothing against the kid. He's not a Deion Sanders or a Bo Jackson. Okay, he's a great athlete. His future money lies in baseball. Would you agree with that? Not pro football."
I would say there's definitely more of an opportunity, and that's just common knowledge, right, knowing how that contracts are structured in Major League Baseball compared to the Professional Football League. There's definitely more money to be made in baseball.
Right.
But to say right now, before he's had a chance to start at Oklahoma, that his future is in one sport rather than the other, we really won't know until this next season. So it's fair to say that there's more of an opportunity to make more money in baseball, but right now you can't really go past, that's his future. I mean, it's an opportunity because baseball is, especially professional baseball, is very, very competitive. You have developmental leagues, you have the minor leagues, and that's just before you make it to the major leagues. And they don't keep career guys around in the minor leagues.
Yeah,
if you don't make it after 5 or 6 years in the minor leagues to the pros, you're usually not around too long after that. So, like I said, to me, in my opinion, it really depends on what would happen next year on the football field should he come back.
Right. But let's say, like I said, let's say a baseball general manager says, give us a commitment. You're the 36th pick. The Pirates general manager says, you'll be the 36th pick, but we need to know that in June after the baseball draft, we can send you to, Timbuktu, Florida, and, play for the Dragonflies or whatever, A-League team is down there. But you're going to get $1.8 million if you give us a commitment that you're going to come out. Why wouldn't he do that? Because my thoughts, and we talked about this, you and I did on Twitter, was why risk getting hurt? And your response, and rightfully so, well, he's not made of glass. Well, yeah, but it doesn't take being made of glass to, Bo Jackson got knocked out of pro football.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, got hit by a defensive back in the hip pointer. And a hip pointer. Boom, he was done with football and really wasn't as good a baseball player after that, I don't think either. Right. So why would you risk? Why would you risk that much money on? It's a guarantee if they say give me a commitment. Why would an athlete say, you know what? No, I'm going to stick and play. Take my chances with football 1 year when he probably is going to end up being at some level of pro baseball anyway.
Okay, so like I said, last year he hit, I believe it was one. Let me pull this up here. He hit 122 last year. Right. He's hit 276 this year. Now on the football field, last year he threw for 359 yards. He completed 85% of his passes. He is in an offense that really can complement him very, very well and help his draft stock in football. And when you look at, this is Skip's first year, and obviously Skip's done just as good of a job at putting Kyler in a position to succeed as what Lincoln has by moving him to the outfield.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. If someone gives you a call and says that they're going to absolutely spend the 36th pick on you if you're going to come out, then yeah, obviously that warrants a discussion and a decision has to be made.
Right.
But again, it's hypothetical because you don't know that that's going to happen for sure.
Right.
Just because of how successful that he was in spot time last year and given what he can do with the way that the offense is set up at Oklahoma. Now, you saw what they did with Baylor with Robert Griffin III, and that is something that you can absolutely do with Kyler Murray here at Oklahoma. Now, the thing that Kyler Murray has that Robert Griffin doesn't have is he has a little more accuracy. He's definitely a little bit faster. He's not as tall, but, you look at Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, guys who are shorter, they can have futures in the NFL. Now, I'm going to go out on the record right here. I'm going to say I don't think that Kyler has a future in the NFL just because of how short he is and the type of quarterback that he is. Those guys don't generally be successful in the NFL.
Right.
But if you're really talking about maximizing the amount of money that you have, and, maybe you will be risking injury, but coming back another year and improving yourself as a baseball player because of the developmental leaps that you can make in the college game are a lot better than at the minor league and developmental league levels. Because when you are in school, you're being held accountable every single day to become better, to be a better player, to push yourself to the furthest extent to make yourself better.
Right.
And a lot of kids, and I use this as an analogy. It's kind of why a lot of kids fail when they go to high school. Go to college. Is that when you're in high school, you're forced to go to school. But when you go to college, you have ultimate freedom. It's up to you to make yourself go up and go to class every single day. Well, it works the same way with working out and going to practice when you're a professional. You know, you don't have somebody forcing you to work out every day. You don't have someone you have someone telling you that you need to work out, but it's completely on you to get it done. You don't have someone pushing you. Now, your job depends on it. Your money, you know, depends on what you do whenever nobody's there at all. So you have to be a very integrity-driven person to go and push yourself when you're a professional baseball player. I actually have a buddy of mine who I played high school baseball with who was drafted by the Texas Rangers last year in the 3rd round, and his name is Matthew Watley. He was the 104th pick out of Oral Roberts, and I'm telling you that dude had the work ethic to come out a year early from Oral Roberts, and he's done pretty well for himself. But talking to him, kind of something that I picked up is that, you know, like I said, there's nobody there to hold you accountable. You have to hold yourself accountable, and you have to make yourself go and work out. It's a lot different from college.
Yeah. Well, we've all seen Bull Durham. You know,
Yeah.
That's that's more true life than what people really think. But that's how life on the road as a semi-pro or lower level pro athlete is.
I think all of our developmental leagues are filled with Dominicans right now.
Yeah.
Nothing against them, but it is. It's completely full of Dominicans.
I have to shoot my shot here because I know the high school baseball coach out in Collinsville, Oklahoma, just so happens to adopt a bunch of Dominicans that just so happen to play baseball, has the kindness of his heart every single year.
Oh, wow.
So there's your developmental league in Oakland Prep. So just take my little shot right there. Because we should have won state my junior year in high school, but Collinsville cheat. So.
Yeah, but
getting back to, like I said there, with nobody, I've seen people succeed with doing that. And most recently, Archie Bradley, he's been a guy that's been pitching for Arizona here in the major leagues. He's up in the big time now. Of course, Dylan Bundy, poor guy, he got rocked the other day whenever he was pitching for the Orioles. I think they were playing. I can't remember who they were playing, but they scored like 8 runs on him in the first inning, and they eventually pulled him. It was bad. But you see two guys like that who their whole life is baseball. And they know what it takes. They throw 98-mile-an-hour fastballs. They've got wicked-ass curveballs. They have the juice that they could just go out there and they can pitch every single day, and they'll be fine for the most part until they play that team that Dylan was playing the other day, and he just got lit up. But on the other side of that, I've also seen guys fail, and they didn't do what they needed to do. They forewent college, and they went straight to the pros, and I've seen them fail.
Right. Most
notably, Zach Von Rosenberg, who was picked by the Pittsburgh Pirates, I believe, in the 4th round back in 2009. He had a pretty cushy thing set up where he was going to go to LSU. He pitched out here at Zachary High School, the school that I went to. He threw about 94, 95 miles an hour. He had a lot of talent. He hit the ball really well. Something happened with Paul Mainieri. There's a huge conspiracy that Paul Mainieri apparently did something, didn't guarantee Zach as being a starter from day one, and due to that, he decided to pull out of his commitment to LSU, and he decided to go pro and pitch in the Pittsburgh organization. Zach is now punting for the LSU football team. So, if that gives you any idea about, you really have to have that mentality.
Right.
It's really, really different. So, like I said, I've heard people use the take the money and run now thing, and to me, it really kind of comes off more as a, look, man, if you're going to fail and get some money,
Right.
and I don't think that's a winner's mindset. A winner to me is someone who says, you know what? Yeah, I could go out this year and I can make $1.8 million. I'm going to lose a lot of chance to develop myself as a player by coming back and playing one more year in college. Skip's a hell of a coach, and that was a great hire for us. And I feel like that if Kyler comes back, he will develop into one of the top baseball prospects in the country. And unlike football, guess what? Size doesn't matter in baseball. You look at Alex Correa of the Houston Astros, and that dude's like 5'7" or something like that. I mean, and he rakes all day long.
Right.
So, I do agree with you that his future could be in baseball, but at the same time, just with the accuracy that he has, I do believe that there is an opportunity in football, especially in Lincoln Riley's offense, to make some money.
Right.
I don't think he's one of those guys, like you said, that's like a Deion Sanders or a Bo Jackson that can play both sports. But, at the same time, just by coming back a year, you get a more solid evaluation of who he is as a football player. And the game slows down so much after a year when you play at the same level.
Right.
When you're in high school and you're a freshman and you're playing varsity baseball, the game's fast. But by the time you get to be a senior, the game slows way down for you, and it's easier. I mean, we had a freshman on our team, the guy who got drafted, Matt Watley. I believe he hit like 284 or something like that, and he graduated hitting like 475. So the same is the same goes for your progression in college.
Yeah.
The game slows down a lot. So who's to say that next year he comes back and he is the best player in college baseball at a position nonetheless, and he could get drafted top 10, top 20.
Right.
And then you're making a bonus of let me take a look here. You're talking about the number 10 pick is $4.5 million. Number 20 is like $3.1 million. So you're essentially doubling your money by coming back and playing one more year.
Right. Well, and I always share a story. I want to share a story about. It's not a two-sport. I'm not going to use names or schools because the lady's a good friend of mine, and I don't have her permission to tell her story. And she's meaner than I am. But her son played Division I football at a big-time school. Had the opportunity to come out early his junior year, and I want to say he was projected mid to late third round, early fourth round. Okay. Family talked, and he wanted to come out. Mama and everybody else said, no, you're going to get your education. You need to get your education. You need to graduate. And I'm talking to her because we work together. I'm talking to her at work, going, girl, let that boy go play college football. I mean, pro football, because, Shaquille O'Neal just finished college 3 years ago. He can always finish college. And he's got an opportunity. I don't remember what the signing bonus and what the people were telling him that he would get with being that, but it was substantial. It was a good amount of money.
Right.
And nope, he's going to finish his education. Graduate, and then, he might even go higher in the draft. Well, yeah, maybe he might. Well, sure enough, in the spring game, he broke his leg. Okay. Right. New coach came in the following season, replaced the old coach. He was still recovering from, I want to say it was a spiral fracture, where the bone isn't just broken across, it's twisted, and broken. And he didn't get to start really back into it full time the second, third game of the season. And then as the season went along, things weren't going well for that team. New coach started putting in the underclassmen towards the end of the season because he was building for the future, get these guys set, so they'll have experience next year. This young man's going to be gone. And he ended up not getting drafted. He ended up, losing a little bit of his 40 time and a few other different things. Tried free agency a little bit, but he's got a good life. He coaches football. But when she came back from the spring game, I heard on the news that it had happened. And I went walking into her office. First thing she said was, all I could hear was your voice when he went down, Terry, saying, let that boy go pro. Let him do it now, because you're taking a chance of costing him a lot of money. And she was like, all I could hear was your voice telling me that. That's the only thing that, from my point of view, as not a professional or Division I athlete, I was a high school athlete. Might have been able to play some small college ball if I wasn't stupid and turn people down. But again, my view of it is if it's there, and I hate you put it right, take the money and take a chance on making it or not, because there are so few people in this world that get that opportunity. I was watching the softball game yesterday, and they had a commercial on with Jerry Rice, and he's talking about college athletes and the thousands and thousands of them who have paid scholarships, but yet a small fraction of those ever get to go pro. And if you're in that small fraction that get the opportunity, I'm just the one. I would probably be a horrible mentor for for Kyler, because I would be going, dude, it's there. If they're telling you to commit, they're going to get you that. That's just my opinion. I mean, as a Sooner fan, Lord, no, I don't want him to go. I want him here, for the season, and especially as a football fan, I want him here for the season. So it's a unique predicament that he is in, that and honestly, I think it's kind of null now. It's kind of died down. Because Lincoln's come out and they've already said they've sat down with all the family and powers that be and experts, and they feel confident he's going to be here next year. Which for us, for the rest of the Sooner fans are like,
is a giant siren.
Yeah,
giant siren.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing, and that I hadn't really vocalized too much is that. Touching on his education portion of it, is that there's a good chance he's going to graduate next year too.
Yeah.
So that's another added bonus of coming back another year. Is you get your diploma, and no matter what happens, you don't have to come back. You'll already have it, and you go directly into the job force, and you don't have to spend any money. You've got your scholarships now, so you don't have to come back and pay. There's a little bit of a convenience factor in it as well for life after sports for Kyler as well, to come back for next year too. For me, like I said, I feel like there's a lot more developmental, pros to come back next year. And that's kind of the one thing that's really driven me in my argument is that, for every argument there is about him coming back and getting injured in a football game, he could easily step into spring training, go into an off-season practice, and he could hurt himself.
Yeah.
There was USC's running back a couple of years ago. It was an off-season workout, and he drops the ball on his throat, and he's never played football again.
Yeah.
There's always freak accidents out there. There's going to be things that happen, but if you live in constant fear of what could happen,
oh yeah, you're never.
To me, I feel like those are usually the people who end up having those things happen to. So if you focus on the negatives, if you focus on he could get hurt, chances are he'll probably get hurt. Jake Butt, when he came back for Michigan, everybody said, well, that was really stupid for him to come back. What if he gets hurt? And then what happens? He ends up getting hurt I believe it was against Ohio State. And, that was a huge deal all years. Everybody was talking about why Jake Butt came back. That was it a good idea for him to come back? Oh, well, what if he gets hurt? He still ended up getting drafted, and he's on a pro roster right now.
Right.
So, there's always going to be that injury thing looming. He could, like I said, he could step into spring training, throw something, tear up his rotator cuff, and he's done.
Yeah.
And then he's going to have to pay to come back to go to school. So you get $1.8 million, but you're spending probably another $60,000 of that just if you want to come back and get your master's. You're going to be spending a lot of that doing that. And you're still going to have a good bit of money, obviously sitting back that you can have for yourself. But there's also another big expense that's right there. Whereas if you just come back a year, and everything falls in line and everything works out, you get your education, and then you have a year where you played football. Where you stand as far as a prospect in football, and you get another year, hopefully better than this year, which has not been, like I said, it's not a bad year. when you're the number 36 overall projected pick by a guy like Keith Law in college baseball, and you're hitting 276.
Right.
So there's still a lot of room for him to improve. With his obviously from the plate, but in the field, the guy is dynamic. He's right now defensively. I don't think that there is a better outfielder in the country that has the skill set that Kyler Murray has, and it's a very dynamic skill set. So that is something to consider as well. You get a more accurate view of what your future can be by coming back and playing both sports next year, being QB1 at Oklahoma and being a second-year outfielder, at Oklahoma as well. And by no means, it's conflicting for a number of reasons for Oklahoma fans. Obviously, we don't want a guy like Kyler Murray, a game changer like Kyler Murray, to go pro in another sport. But also as a baseball fan, myself, and a huge Oklahoma baseball fan, and knowing we're not a blue blood program in college baseball, knowing we need all the help we can get
right
on the diamond, and having someone like that's another thing that, obviously, and you want to have on your team for next year as well. So,
right,
it's a lot of things.
Yeah, and also just to touch on what if he goes into spring training, throws out a rotator cuff, in spring training, then what he's done with football. Me and Rob kind of think he could probably come back to OU and run track because dude is fast. He could probably
if you run a 4.340, if you run a 4.340, you could play basketball.
Yeah.
Give him a discus. I mean,
yeah,
javelin. See if there's a spot on the rowing team for him. Give him something.
But to let's just say he's staying. All things now are pointing to he's staying. What's Riley going to do with him in the offense?
Like I said earlier, there's a lot of options that you can open up, especially when you look at he most resembles Robert Griffin III. He's a little bit shorter, obviously, but he has a great arm. A lot of Oklahoma fans don't realize this, but it was actually him and Marquise Brown that hooked up for a long touchdown before Baker Mayfield and Marquise Brown did last season.
Right.
And that was in the Tulane game.
Oh, yeah.
They were. It took Baker, and it was the same thing with Dede. I said it in 2016 as well as last year. If Baker can hook up with Dede Westbrook, and they can, because a lot of those deep balls in 2015, him and Dede their timing was way off, and he missed a lot of times he was throwing downfield to Dede. If they complete some of those passes, if we had the Dede Baker connection from 2016 to 2015, Oklahoma wins the college football playoff, hands down.
Yeah,
because you have a guy like Sterling Shepard and Dede Westbrook who are as dynamic as what they were on the field at the same time. It's a completely different team. It's a completely different offense.
Right
now, you saw in 2016, obviously they got that timing down, but then the question was, behind Mark Andrews and Dede Westbrook, who are you throwing the ball to? And obviously that's where Dimitri Flowers stepped in, and he made a huge step in his junior season. Well, then you come into last year, everybody says, Dede's gone, Sterling's gone, Baker's got nobody to throw the football to except Mark Andrews. Oklahoma's screwed. Well, here comes Marquise Brown, CeeDee Lamb, all these younger guys that came in and stepped up and, played really well. So, now there's a little bit less questions at the wide receiver position. A lot of people from the outside don't know what Kyler can do. They don't know the type of arm he has. They don't know how fast he is. They don't know that Lincoln Riley is a freaking genius and an offensive wizard, that you can put him in the type of offense that Baylor had where they spread the wide receivers way out to the boundary. You're giving your receivers more room to run their routes. You're creating more spaces, bigger windows for your quarterback to throw the ball into. And you're also creating a threat with the quarterback run where you're matching him up pretty much every single play with an inside linebacker. And by God, if you put Kyler Murray lined up going downhill at a middle linebacker every single play, I'm thinking Kyler Murray. That middle linebacker isn't touching Kyler Murray unless Kyler Murray wants him to. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Obviously, there's the option, that's going to be something with the backfield that we have that is definitely a huge, that's something that they could play into a little bit. The flats are going to be wide open all year long for Rodney Anderson, Trey Sermon, and TJ Pledger should they decide to go ahead and let him play without a red shirt. I mean, there's a lot of things that Oklahoma can do this year, and that offense from last year can be even better just because of, when you think back to the TCU game in the Big 12 championship where Baker broke that really big run, and you just see this, pudgy white kid just barely outrunning the TCU secondary.
Kyler Murray's in the end zone 5 seconds.
a 5'9" kid that, runs a 4.3 40 just blazing down the sideline, and it's a touchdown. So there's just so much. I mean, the offense is so vast, and Lincoln just gets the players involved in the most creative ways that you would never even think possible. Like the option pitch back from Trey Sermon to Kyler in the Ohio State game.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because, and we talked about it on another podcast that we had was when, that was the first play he was in that game, when Baker went down. And Kirk Herbstreit even commented on it that's the genius of Lincoln Riley is he's got a completely different style quarterback. And what's the first thing he does? He runs the first option play we've seen in Oklahoma in quite a while, and it was a different play than I think anybody's ever seen. I've never seen a zone read, give it to the back, because there was another read. I mean, he could have kept it going the other way. Kyler could have, but he gives it, and as soon as that corner cracked in on Sermon, that pitch came out, which left that outside open. And
absolutely,
I mean, and just that's what I'm looking forward to seeing is I think Riley's going to take the zone read with Kyler to a completely different level than what anybody's seen it. I agree. You're going to see you're not just going to see a run pass, option. You're going to see a run pass pitch, triple whirly bird reverse, whatever. It
with
is.
A 360 and a backflip at the goal line.
Yeah.
Baby. Let's do it.
So, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't think our offense is gonna miss a beat. I mean, and I know that's saying a lot, with losing Baker. Rob always looks at me like, I've got a crack pipe over here when I say that. But we're losing Baker, but man, we have some weapens on offense.
Right.
I'm not
and
saying
the thing that made Baker is Baker was a smart quarterback.
Yeah.
And he worked hard, and there's you could question his commitment based off his attitude all you want, but the results were on the field. And I mean, just the way that he played the game was what made Baker great. Kyler's a little more reserved. Now, I like to compare him to Sam Bradford and how he carries himself. He's a little more in control. He's the kind of guy, he's just going to go out and he's going to play. He's very old-fashioned. A lot of people don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And, those guys, it's the quiet ones you got to worry about. You don't hear too much from Kyler. He's not a very loud person like what Baker is, like what I am. I mean, he's going to go out there and he's just going to play the game and he's going to give the best he can every single play.
Right.
And like I said, it's just two different styles, but you've seen two different styles work for Oklahoma in the past. I mean, obviously, like I said, Sam Bradford was a very quiet guy. There was some times where he'd get, barking when he was really pumped up, but it'd be on the sideline. He wouldn't be getting anybody's face. And then you have a guy like Baker grabbing his crotch down the sideline against Kansas, and it's just, but when have we ever seen anybody play as good as what Baker Mayfield has and turn the tide at Oklahoma the way anybody's been able to do that before like Baker has?
Right.
Oklahoma was drowning when he got there. And look what he did. We haven't had a whole lot of talent on our team, and that's not a knock to any of the players that have played in Oklahoma before, but we're talking Zach Sanchez was the 71st overall corner in his class. And he was a semifinalist for Thorpe. He, left a year early, which I thought was a bad idea again. But he left a year early. He was on a roster up until this year. You have guys like Aaron Colvin, who's one of, in the secondary statistics, he leads a lot of those in the NFL when you consider, pass completion against and those sort of things. They've had some success with guys that weren't really high-value targets based off of scouts, rivals, and 247, coming in out of high school into Oklahoma. The development in the Big 12 is way beyond what it is in the SEC, in my opinion, and that's a conversation for another day.
Right.
But there's a lot of things going on right now in Oklahoma that makes it, the possibilities of him coming back and playing next year and being the quarterback is just, there's a lot of things that can happen with that offense, and you can't help but be excited. It's like, when you get a sequel to one of your favorite movies, and you're just like, oh man, this is going to be great. I cannot wait for this. And then
like Deadpool.
Here's the bad thing: you got to sit for 6 freaking months and wait for it to come back around again.
Yeah. Well, I think with Baker, the biggest thing we're going to miss with him, all the great things he did, but his leadership is what we're going to miss.
Absolutely.
Kyler's got every bit of athletic ability, to do the job.
More so.
More athletic ability. Like you said, the little pudgy white guy running down against, TCU, but who's going to step up and be that guy that Baker was the guy that would go get in the defensive line's face and tell them,
right.
Hey, pick it up, hold it one more time. We got this. That's what we're going to miss out of Baker. And hopefully there's somebody that they find that doesn't have to be as vocal as Baker, but a leader, that type of leader.
Well, don't you ultimately hope that's Kyler?
Yeah.
Yeah. People have different way of leading. There's more than one way to be a leader.
Yeah.
And, your teammates feed off of who you are. You saw Kyle. When Baker would get fired up, everybody would get fired up and ready to roll. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So Kyler's a little bit more of a calm person, so that could be good in late game situations where you've got guys maybe feeling some nerves, and you can look at the guy across from you and see he's a rock, and that instantly takes all that pressure off. You've got a guy like, Bookie. And that dude, he's going to be a leader out the gate, obviously.
Yeah.
The dude's a gamer. So you don't really necessarily need to look for one person to be the new Baker Mayfield. Obviously having leadership like that is great, but after Baker, who was the leader? You could say Obo, Orlando, anybody you want, but Baker, that was Baker's team. Baker ran it. Baker was talking to everybody listened to him. Well, now I think you're going to see more guys step up, and you're going to see more guys, step into that role. You're going to have a guy like Mark Jackson, who I think is very underrated. I think he's going to be the guy that steps in, and he's obviously, between him and Bookie are going to be two guys on defense. It's their defense.
Right.
I think you're going to see a guy like Kyler. He's going to be a little bit more of a calm presence, and you have Rodney Anderson in the backfield, and given all that he's been through and how solid he's been the last couple months, he's a solid person as well.
Right, and he
can definitely step into that leadership role.
Yeah, he's a leader. I think off the field anyway, because I believe he's the president of the FCA, or was last year.
Exactly.
So he's already got that type of respect from his teammates and other athletes. So
absolutely.
But great conversations, great topics. Cannot wait till August gets here and September 1st gets here. Rob gets to go to work, and we get to start watching football games. And
right.
But
in here.
That Kyler Murray is 5'11".
He's taller than that.
What?
He's taller than that.
Well,
I stood next to him.
He is not taller than 5'11".
Yes, he is.
There's
so
no way.
explain this to me, because I'm looking. I've got his baseball profile at OU here, and I've got his football profile here. Okay. So, and keep in mind the football profile is up to date. They updated it before the spring. Now, why does it say he's 5'10" and 190 on his quarterback profile, and he's 5'11", 195 on his baseball profile? Who's lying?
Well,
They're both lying.
They're both. But what I saw a thing this morning on, I believe it was Sports Center, the NBA Combine. They measured a guy's height with and without shoes. Some of them were 2 inches taller with shoes on. The hell kind of shoes are these guys wearing?
Going out there in the high tops, man, you know?
Yeah, but literally so it must have been whatever shoes, cleat, baseball, or maybe football cleats don't give you as much height as baseball cleats do, and they weigh a little bit less.
Well, here's the thing: is that I don't know what type of shoes they're wearing, because I mean it's Oklahoma. They're all the same brand. They're all Nike, cleats and stuff like that. So they should all be the same height, but where did the 5 extra pounds come from? And if he get him lighter shoes, and that dude could probably run 4.2. Yeah.
He can definitely move, but hey, man, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to go ahead and shut it off. Great conversations. Loved your points of view, and we appreciate it.
Hey, thank you all for having me on, man. This was a lot of fun.
Everybody, check out the Prairie Report. Check out the Chase for 8 podcast. Watch for both of us on the Reload Status Sooner Edition. That's just new and out. And hopefully we can get together and do this again and talk about him being quarterback and not have to worry about baseball until next year. So, but that's podcast for the day. Boomer Rob,
Boomer Terry,
and Boomer Matthew. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Boomer.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans podcast. If you want to be on the podcast and talk Sooner football with us, go to www.soonerfootballfans.com. Click on the How to Be on the Podcast tab, fill out the form, and we'll get you on. Boomer.